Now Coasters, I'm at the Blaketown lagoon and I've got an interview today with Tony Roach, and he's the owner of the Cosair. Tony, what's the history of the boat?
The Cosair was built by West Bay Seafoods. A few coast guys, John Buchanan, Harry Laney, and the third guy, I've actually forgotten his name, but it was built to well on with the Cascade.
Yep.
And they had the Franconia as well, so they were a Hokitika based fishing company. So she was built here in the first port of call and started off as a West Coast boat its whole time.
It's a good boat?
Awesome boat, yep. Built way before its time. Twin screwed, got a lot of gear, and punches well above its weight.
Any chance of having a look on board?
Yeah, no, good as gold.
So Tony, we're in the bridge.
Yep.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, that's where it all goes on.
Coasters have a reputation for being hard-working, knowledgeable, and possessing the ability to get the job done. And you know, you're one of the people that has a reputation like that, Tony. I've talked to a number of people about your fishing operation, and I'd like to thank you for agreeing to share some of your experiences with the Coasters Club. It really is fantastic. How many seasons old are you?
Yeah, I'm in my 50s now, and I've spent more days at sea than I have on the land, and it's all I've ever done. Come from a fishing family. I've got two brothers that do the same, and my dad's a retired fisherman as well.
Wow. And whereabouts did the family come from?
Originally my parents are from the Marlborough Sounds.
Yep.
And we grew up in the Sounds and Durval Island area, and we're based in Nelson.
And you've been fishing ever since?
Yep, been fishing since I've left school when I was 15.
Do you have kids?
Yeah, I have two boys, yep. One's a just about qualified marine engineer, and the youngest one was fishing, but he's just taken up a building trade at the moment.
Oh, good on him.
Yep.
Good on him. Now look, they say some of the older fishermen I've spoken to said the 90s was the greatest decade of fishing that New Zealand ever seen or ever saw. Was that true, or is that?
Yeah, fishing's been up and down. It was pretty good then. I was only a young fella then, obviously, but fishing's really good now. You know, like we're catching a lot of fish. We're putting less effort in, less sea days to catch our quota, and can't see too much wrong with it. What we're doing nowadays.
How did your fishing career start? You know, obviously you're a young fella.
Yeah, no, just in my school holidays, and spending a lot of time on Durval Island. I used to jump on the boat and set a few nets and a couple of set lines and catch my own fish, and then go and work with my father on the boat in the holidays, and yeah, just carried on from there.
You've spent a lot of time at sea. What about memorable days? Any days where you think, yeah, that was, don't want to do that again?
Yeah, no, I've had some pretty hairy days. We've taken this boat and fished outside the line, outside 200 miles, and we've seen some pretty big weather out there, and we know waves landing on the wheelhouse roof and what have you, and some bar crossings just here on the Greymouth bar. We've had a few of those where you get in and your knees are shaking, and you're thinking you don't want to do that again.
Goodness me. Biggest fish you've ever caught?
Well, I've been involved in charter fishing down here as well. I owned and run a charter boat, and we're out catching the southern bluefin tuna, or northern tuna, tors they call them, and we've landed over 300 kilo fish.
300?
Yeah.
That's game fishing.
Yeah, game fishing. Yep. I've done it. Skipped a couple of world records out here.
So, any future for game fishing out of Greymouth?
Yeah, I think so. Again, I've actually just purchased another charter boat, and when we're finished here this week, we're going to come back down and have another look again and see if we can revive it a bit and get a few more trips under the belt.
Well, certainly with fish that size, I wonder does everybody know that those types of fish are available off the coast here?
They do, yeah. It's the trouble is it's a pretty hostile environment to get people down here in the middle of the winter out there crashing around in the weather doing it. So, but the people that are into their game fishing know it, and we've had people from all around the world doing it, and yeah, and it was a pretty exciting fishery to be involved in.
So, is fishing taking you to other places around New Zealand?
Yeah, we're predominantly based in Nelson, but we fish from Timaru right round, and obviously down to Jackson Bay, and up the North Island and New Plymouth, Taranaki area. We fish up in that zone sometimes as well.
Where's the sea that's the worst sea to be in?
I know Cook Strait hand gives you some pretty good hidings, and the reason being that the swell's a lot closer and the tide's a lot stronger, so you get some pretty uncomfortable days there. And obviously the west coast with you get some big seas, but for us, where we predominantly fish in the Cook Strait, it's probably gives us the best ones.
with how's technology changed fishing, or has it changed it at all?
Oh yeah, technology's played a massive part. It's amazing how far the industry's gone in the last few years. I mean, we have cod-end sensors, so they signal us when there's fish in the bag, and we can keep our bag sizes down to increase quality. We have sensors in our trawl doors, so we can see how much we're opening the gear, how much spread we have, and how much bottom contact the doors have got on the bottom. And then we have very good plotters, and you know, we run a couple of plotters and a couple of radars, and we run a lot of gear, good sounders these days. And so our tow times are so much shorter, and we've got less time on the bottom. And if we have anything or a bag, we know straight away. You know, we pick up and get it back in the water and have another go.
The best season you ever had, what year was that? Could be this year.
Yeah, well, this year it's been a bit of a tough one with COVID going on. We've been on reduced catches and bits and pieces, but we've still been going along, and tallies have kept us working, which has been good, and we contract to them. But the last couple of years on the west coast we've had some pretty big hoki seasons, and yeah, definitely the last few years have been really good. Our fishing has just got better and better over them. We're probably spending more time now moving away from fish, you know, to match our fish plan. So, but it's just got better every year, really.
So, wise words for a young man that wants to go fishing?
Yeah, just get into it. I mean, people say there's no future getting into the fishery and there's no pathway, but it's completely wrong. You know, like we're just screaming out for young workers, and we identify guys that look like they've got a future, and the company get behind us, and we'll pay for training and get them through the polytechs and get them their tickets. And you know, there's good money to be made. My crew make really good money, and there's boats laying around without skippers and crew. You know, we just can't get enough workers in the industry.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, and it is incredible. You know, it's a good job, but I think the generation we're in now, they enjoy being at home, and they enjoy the trappings of big city life, and they not so keen on coming to do the primary sector work that we do.
So, how does a young man get to achieve what you've achieved? I mean, you're in the top 10%. How does a young man get to own his own boat?
Yeah, he's just got to get on and start at it. You know, like any other job, it's business is tough. You just got to start at the bottom and work hard, you know, and prove your worth. I guess if you're keen to learn and you get on with it, and like for us, so we're doing our job, and we've got young guys that come up in the wheelhouse and want to know what we're doing and how we're doing and why we're doing it. Yeah. That's an indicator that those guys are keen to learn, and it's no different than any trade. And then they're the guys that we're keen to get. You know, we need them. I've got a couple of boats, and I'm training skippers up as we go, and one of the young guys off that boat will be coming on here shortly. And it's, you know, there is pathways, and the companies are looking, Tallies and the West Fleet and the rest of them they're after workers, you know.
It's interesting. How does someone like yourself, I mean, I know you came in early this morning from fishing overnight, you're up here now early again today, you're ready to go out again. How do you keep going? Is it difficult?
Yeah, some days are tough, but at the end of the day, it's all about making money, you know, and getting the job done. I still enjoy the challenge of catching a bag of fish. You know, I love going fishing, and the competitive side of it, I like being first and best if I can. So that sort of drives you to get out of bed. But yeah, no, we were in at 2:30 this morning. We'll be sailing again at midday, and hopefully back in again tomorrow morning. It's a sign of how good the hoki fishery is out here. But yeah, I just love the challenge of the competition of it, really.
Now, I've read that overseas fishing companies love Kiwis that have been trained in the Kiwi fishing sector. Is that correct, or is that?
Definitely. Yeah. No, Kiwis in all parts of the world, South Africa and Australia and the rest of it, and I think they're just driven and you know, very good at their job.
And does that demand from overseas impact on the available quality people that you can find?
Probably not quite so much in the skippers and the bigger boats, because you know, the guys here are pretty happy, but there's definitely a shortage of people to run the smaller boats, that's for sure.
Tony, you ever sunk a boat?
Yep, I've had a go at doing that.
What was that like?
Yeah, not a good day. You know, ploughed into a rock and sunk a boat. Got it up the beach, but then the tide came in and she fell over. So.
Oh, I love it. Now, what about a crewman or yourself overboard? You done a bit of that?
Actually, yeah, we had one guy just hooking up the trawl doors, fell on the tide, but he was grabbed straight away and pulled back aboard. But no, we're pretty good. We've got a pretty good safety record.
Yeah, I mean, safety's one thing, but of course we're dealing with wild nature, aren't we?
Oh, exactly. You know? No, you can be going along, and then, I mean, the freak wave, which we get them, you know, like you'd be going along happy as Larry and then all of a sudden the deck's full of water, you know, it happens.
How does the fisheries management work?
We have the ITQ system, and the quotas are set annually and reviewed. That was introduced in the early 80s, and I think that saved the fishery. When the fish stocks are strong, they presumably lift the quota so you can catch more, and when they fish stocks decrease, which everything goes up and down, they decrease the quotas. But they're very, very cautious. We don't very often see increases, and they're pretty quick to decrease it, but that's called fisheries management. You know, you have good years and bad years, and that's how it rolls.
What effect does the fisheries management have on the way you work?
For us, we've got to lease this quota and before we go fishing pretty much. We can acquire quota after we've caught it, but there's a risk of not getting it. So we contract to Tally's Fisheries, and we have an annual fish plan, and it's like a shopping list, and so we try and fish to that. We're continually on the phone with them, checking on markets and days they want us to unload, and what fish they want us to catch that week or land, and the amounts. So we're more often than not coming in now, not full, but to land on the right day to secure a good fresh fish market with what product we have on board.
So process is really important in the whole thing.
Yeah, more so now. In the old days it was more about landing bulk tonnage of fish and just getting kilos off the boat. Now it's about landing smaller loads, better quality, and getting it to the market fresh and you know, small amounts regular.
How does the weather impact on your season? Do you ever have, like, I know we have seasons where it's very wet, but I guess that doesn't really impact on you?
Oh no, definitely. The last couple of years we've had quite poor weather on the coast here, northeast, a lot of offshore weather, which has really impacted on our fishing and kept the water temperature up because we haven't had a lot of southerly southwest weather and southerly tides. But this year the weather's been a lot better, and we've had a lot colder water on the coast, and consequently we've had better fish. But with the fishing being so good, we don't work a lot of rough weather these days. If the weather's poor, we start the wharf.
Yep.
You know, part of working in rough weather is the boat lurches around and you damage your fish and the net getting it aboard. So that's something we try and avoid these days.
So how does you know, you get some feedback from the processor, and the processor says, I want this type of fish. How do you find the concentration of those fish? There's a big sea out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's all knowledge and time doing the job. I mean, like I say, I've been doing it for 30 odd years, so you sort of, and we're fishing the same places we've fished historically. We know the time of year and where that fish is going to be at that time of year, and yeah, we just, you know, it's just knowledge learned over time.
Do other boats give you grief?
No, we all work together. There's actually, obviously, there's less of us now. That we used to be pretty secretive and not tell one another too much, but now there's we're just kind of letting one another know what's going on, and it's pretty good, really.
What's a typical good fishing condition look like?
Oh, calm, just like today. Calmer the better.
Beautiful flat day.
Yep, sun shining.
Sunshine. Oh, yeah. So what sort of wind conditions or conditions would make you head for shore?
Just depends. If we're at sea pretty much, so we'll work 30 knots quite comfortably, but generally you know, 15-20 knots, that's all. You know, much more than that we start looking for somewhere to, or tow with the weather, but we keep a really good eye on the weather, and it may be that we're in a certain area and there's a front or southwest front coming, and we'll just move that night to be in a better position for the next day where the weather's you know, better to work in.
A question that I was really interested in: fishermen superstitions. Is there such a thing? Are they real?
Some of them are, but we're not too worried about it. But not quite like the extent you see it on TV these days, I don't think.
No, it's probably right. Now, a deckhand, a young fellow who's starting, does he earn good money, or does he earn, you know, is he?
Yeah, no, it depends who you work for, obviously, but my boys on here are all making very good money.
Yep.
Probably double what they make on land. And my crew on here are professionals, you know. They've been doing it for a few years. I've got a bit older crew, but they're very good at their job and they get paid very well.
What's the annual catch on the coast worth, in rough terms? Does anyone know?
I'm not too sure the figures, actually, to be honest.
We talked about the boat Cosair before, and that's how you say it, isn't it? Cosair?
Yes. Yep.
Obviously, is it pretty good in the big seas?
Awesome boat, yeah. We've got stabilisers, wings on here. It was a well-designed boat. You know, she's awesome boat.
Now, hey, the world we're in, social media, lefts and rights and greens and all sorts of other colours. Now, the world's full of knockers. Here's some stuff I took off the one extreme green site yesterday to have a talk to you about. Headline was overfished West Coast Hoki fishery collapses, and it goes on and talks about how the fact that the Hoki's gone, and this was in September 2018, and yet they tell me this is one of the better seasons.
Yeah, I mean, Hoki is a quick growing fish, and so year on year the biomass is up and down. The fishing industry, we were looking for cuts because it had been a bit poorer in the last couple of years,
yeah.
And so it'd been a 25,000 tonne cut, I think it was, and there may be another one to come, but that's called fisheries management. You know, if you have good years and bad years, and as soon as we put our hand up and say, oh look, let's catch less and let the fishery rebuild again. We've been through this before 10 years ago with the same, we dropped it right back and then we nearly doubled it again. And that's what you do. That's called fisheries management. If it's in a bit of decline, you reduce your catch and let the stocks rebuild, get a couple of good years. The last couple of years I think water temperature's got a lot to do with it. You know, we've been fishing in a couple of degrees warmer water on the bottom out here on the coast, and this year we're back down to 10 degrees instead of 12, you know, and that's just made a massive difference. And there's more in play than just, you know, there's so much going on, and fisheries management is about looking at everything and making decisions and making them quickly. And as soon as you say, oh, we're going to cut the quota, everyone says you've wrecked it. Well, that's management. That's what you do. It's like no different than a farmer moving stock around his paddock, as far as I can see.
Well, that's a statement that you've just made that throws a totally different picture on what we see in some of these articles from the extreme greens, and I call them extreme greens because that's what they are. Now, look, what about another statement there this morning? Close rivers to save whitebait. So they're looking at closing rivers. I know it's not your area, but you're a fisherman, you know about fish. If we close all the rivers, what will happen?
Oh, I mean, that's a way of life I don't understand. I mean, I don't know a lot about whitebait. I enjoy eating them, but yeah, it's just ridiculous for some of the stuff they come up with. And it's like shutting down millions of dollars worth of fisheries for the dolphins. For me, it's just like, we've had observers nearly 100% coverage up in the Taranaki area and had one dolphin in 18 years, and yet they're shutting down millions of dollars worth of fisheries and right around the country now, and banning set netting and all these other things. It's just ridiculous. I mean, how many people's jobs and how much money does the country have to lose when people are making statements that are just not right?
It's just crazy. Another statement: sharks are thriving in the Kermadecks, but the rest of New Zealand is in a global decline. Is that what you see out there? I mean, you're out in the water.
No, I think the sharks, we catch a lot of shark when we're trawling, and definitely not in a decline. What is in a decline is the guys with the set net, which is a predominant way of catching them. Well, they're not going to be doing that anymore now, basically, because they've been thrown to the wolves. So I think it's just statements for people who know nothing what they're talking about. What
about the there's a lot of statements about birds being caught, dolphins being caught, and yet it's recorded on the coast here. I don't think there's been a dolphin caught on the coast for well over a decade.
Exactly, yeah, and this is just stuff they making up numbers and pulling things out, and a lot of footage they show has actually been amateur nets around river mouths, and they keep bringing the same stuff up from 30 years ago. It's just ridiculous.
And here's another one I pulled off, the last one I wanted to just mention. It says, meet the New Zealand business profiting from destroying the environment, and they referred to tallies. Tallies are one of our most important employers coastwide. They run an ethical business. They're fantastic to work for. This sort of thing gives me the guts ache.
Oh yeah, it's exactly. I mean, we just get sick of arguing with them. I think social media's it's just a place for idiots to run around saying statements that are just completely incorrect, you know. And we get it continually about trawling and the rest of it. And I mean, nowadays we're using rope sweeps that are, just all we're after is to stir up a bit of the sediment layer and move the fish around. Our trawl doors are all vented, they're designed, they're like aeroplane wings, their bottom contact's minimal. And we're towing in the same place we've been towing for 30 years. We're not, the tracks on our plotters, we're in holes on our plotters, we just go back to the same place. If we were wrecking the place and burying it, we'd have to go elsewhere, but we're not doing that. We go back to the same place year in, year out, and the same time of the year, and catching the fish quicker, more efficiently, burning less fuel, less time. So obviously the fish stocks are getting better, not worse. I don't know where it comes from.
Sustainable harvesting. Has government regulation increased the cost of being a fisherman?
Yes, it has, but the cost of being a fisherman in the fishing side isn't actually that bad. I mean, the leasing quota is not that bad. The cost of small business is no different than any other small business. You know, we have a lot of our wage cost is the highest one, and then the fuel cost is a variant that goes up, fuel and oil all the time. Our maintenance cost, because we've got an old fleet of boats, is very high. So, you know, straight away we lose 30%, 33% in wages, generally anywhere from 20 to 30% in fuel and oil. And then R&M, repairs and maintenance, trawl nets, you know, all that sort of gear, that's another 20%. The actual profit out of our business is very low. It's like any small business, you know, you're in there for the long haul.
Incredible how those figures line up almost identically with alluvial gold mining.
Yeah.
Those, you know, the fuel, wages, R&M,
Yep.
and then, you know, you've got to finance your capital costs.
Yes.
Has the costs that are imposed on you, is that recoverable from an increased price in fish?
Oh yeah, definitely. Anytime you get a better price for your fish, you'll make more money. So we work really hard catching any amount of fish, and the more we can land on a fresh market, the more we get paid. So here we go again, just talking about shorter trips and smaller bags and better quality. We look at $1 or more for teriyaki, or $2 more for teriyaki if it goes on a fresh market compared to getting frozen and put it in the freezer. So we're very conscious of talking to the factory and the processing managers to know what days to land and what fish they're looking for, and they're ringing us up every day, reports and going in. So yeah, it's got to be run well.
Can we grow the industry on the coast here?
Oh, I think we can, yeah. I think it's hard to work with small boats. I think it's a very romantic thing to say, oh, small boats and get back into there, but it's a business, and a lot of the smaller boats are not so efficient now, and you just can't get a workforce in them. You know, a lot of guys that stayed in there at the end on the coast, they only really gave up because they couldn't get young workers to come to sea, you know, and that's all it was about it. And the coast is probably one of the best places because these guys can leave Greymouth or Westport and chuck their net over the side straight away. When you're based in the likes of Nelson or the bigger, we steam further, you know, we steam 10 or 12 hours before we start fishing.
Oh wow.
So there's quite a difference. So a small boat is just not going to be profitable working out of Nelson. You need a bigger boat to work out of the bigger ports. But the West Coast could, you know, if they could get some workers on these boats, they'd be going. This boat's tied to the wharf without skippers and crew, you know.
Yeah. How many tonnes this boat?
This boat's just on 100 tonne.
So with the new slipway going in, it'll be able to be pulled up the slipway?
Yeah, they used to in the old days, and then this boat did go on here. But yeah, when they improve it, definitely.
Yeah, it's quite exciting, and it's showing real commitment to the industry, isn't it?
Yeah, it'd be good to see. I mean, we're fishing here in the hoki season, and we come down with a half a dozen of this, you know, the 20 metre, mid 20 metre range boats fishing wet hoki in and out from Hokitika here. And there's a long line fishery out here with a southern bluefin, and the boats are sort of going back to Westport, and it needs to be grabbed. If Greymouth wants to do it, they need to have some harbour improvements so it can handle all the boats.
Look, the Greymouth port and Blaketown lagoon would have to be the most significant asset that the town's got. When I look from outside, I don't live here.
Yep.
I just look at it and think, you know, hey, there's been a few mistakes made selling off the harbour board land. I could never understand that. Can't go backwards, of course. You know, as a sector here for growth, this is fantastic.
Exactly, I think, and if they can afford to improve the harbour, they'll attract more boats. I mean, the West Coast is a big area, you know, from one end to the other, and Greymouth's central to it. So, you know, if they can get some improvements here and keep the boats coming in here, I mean, we all spend money. I've got engineers working on my other boat, and you know, we go to the local supermarket and the local restaurant, and I rent a house 3 months a year here in winter, and I base my business here for that every year, and then we come here other times. So, you know, it may be the fact that, like you say, the new slipway comes on song. If they've got the workforce to do the maintenance on the boats, well, then we get into it.
Could be fantastic. Any views on aquaculture as a future for the coast? Is it pretty hard work, is it?
I think agriculture will struggle here just because of the swell. You know,
Yeah.
like you start getting 4 or 5 metres of swell, and I just don't see any agriculture's gonna handle that offshore. You know.
So, if you were suddenly placed into power with a magic wand, and you wanted to point the fishing sector on the west coast in a particular direction to make it more sustainable, more profitable, and a career for our young people, what would it look like? Sorry to throw you on the spot like that, but I thought...
Yeah, I never thought of that. I think the fishing industry has dropped the ball. We need to be educating our young people that fishing is good. You know, it's just there's too many people in our institutions saying, you know, bad things about primary industry. That's all it is about. And until we change that mindset, we're going to be struggling for all our primary industries. We need to be teaching our kids that it's all right to go and work on a dairy farm or a fishing boat, and that's a good way. That's how Kiwis started, you know, and we've gone the wrong way.
And it's not just a good thing; it's a fantastic thing. Whatever happened to? Remember when Mickey Ryan had a school up in Westport there?
Yeah, no, they've still got the deep sea fishing school there.
Oh, still there?
Yep, yeah, it's still there, and the fishing companies sponsor young guys to go there, and they get cadets from all around the country that go there and do their time, and most of those guys walk straight into jobs on the bigger boats, and some of the smaller boats we take cadets out for trials and trips and see how they go.
And so it's working well?
Yeah, it's once again, it's still getting those young guys in there, you know, it's hard work for them. But they've improved the school, they're doing more training there. I've just had one of my young guys do a skipper's ticket there, so they're increasing what they can do in running courses, so they can do deckhands tickets and skipper's tickets, and they're looking at upgrading to doing an offshore master's ticket now. So,
wow.
And they have the school, actually an old school there, so the guys go and live there, and you know, they get them up in the morning and take them for a run and do all that sort of stuff. It's really cool.
Oh, I love it. So looking at this, looking at the area here, we're going to have a new slipway, which will take 200 tonne. They tell me, I was talking to Franco the other day, interviewed him over at the slipway, and he was saying that we're going to put a 20 metre high building up.
Yep.
So you'd be undercover. Just talking to Mark at Mark Jones Repairs, and he was saying he painted his first boat the other day.
Yep.
It's the first one he's done in 40 years.
Yeah, no, we've watched him do it actually.
Yeah, and I mean that's pretty cool. If you had a message, you know, in concluding this interview, and I really want to thank you for taking your time because I know you're busy. If there's a message for coasters, you know, we all live here, we live in Greymouth, we live in Hokie, we live in Westport. We've got to get them behind the fishing sector, don't we? We've really got to get them behind.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, and you want to tell your kids that it's pretty good to go fishing. You know, it's a good job. There's going to be good money. But yeah, the coaster's sort of trying to die a bit, for honest, isn't it? And the fishing industry is definitely a light at the end of the tunnel, I reckon. And you got Westfleet down here with Craig Boot and them, you know, build a new factory and going very hard at trying to keep things going. And like you say, Tally's invest a lot of money down here, and you know, the tuna season comes and goes, but if you have a decent slipway here that can do the job, when these boats are down here tunering, you'll find more and more of them away boats will do maintenance here and work here, and yeah, just try and keep growing.
So sounds pretty exciting.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, no, definitely. We you just got to do battle with the wingnuts.
The wingnuts. Geez, don't get me going on the wingnuts. They really give me grief. Well, look, coasters, Tony Roach, he owns the Cosair. Him and his brother's got a boat, and what's your brother's boat called?
The Redemption.
And you've got another one sitting to the right there. What's that one called?
The Pursuit 2. Yep, and my other brother's got a boat, the Sea Hunter.
Oh, I love it. Well, listen, thanks so much for talking to us. Coasters, if you've got any messages for Tony that you want to ask a question, you're looking for employment, you want to know about the resource, send us a message and I'll pass it on to him. Tony, thanks so much for taking the time to speak to me. I just really appreciate it.
Yep, no, good as gold.